strong and shifting hard. Shifts are very hard for what should be kind of a luxury automobile. I don't know, maybe I've got to work on that a little bit. Welcome to my latest grind time video, where I do dumb things in my garage so you don't have to. My goal with this latest grind time video was to show you comparison clips of how Project Risky Business, my $4,000 1985 Porsche 928 barn find, shifts before and after I replace the vacuum actuator. Unfortunately, a $6 clip that holds the shift linkage to the transmission went flying as I was trying to reassemble, and I could not find it anywhere in my garage. I decided to move forward with this video, and in the next one, I will show the before and after of the car shifting once I have the parts in place. So while this video doesn't show a shakedown cruise, I do show in detail how to remove and replace the vacuum actuator on a Porsche 928 equipped with an automatic transmission. Additionally, I show how I plastic welded the air cleaner top after it was damaged in an earthquake here in New Jersey. Stay tuned. Approximately 80% of all 928s manufactured between 1977 and 1995 came equipped with an automatic transmission. One of the areas, though, that Porsche decided not to build in-house was with the automatic transmission. And for all 18 years of the production, they relied on Mercedes to supply it. The first few model years of the Porsche 928 featured a 3-speed automatic supplied by Mercedes-Benz, while S3 cars and later, like mine, feature a 4-speed automatic. Porsche engineers just simply didn't bolt these transmissions into the car. This Mercedes transmission has a Jekyll and Hyde personality, and that's controlled by what's known as the vacuum modulator. This control unit, mounted on the left side of the transmission, driver's side in America, is run by engine vacuum. In part throttle conditions, the vacuum modulator regulates the pressure to facilitate much smoother and almost imperceptible shifts. If a driver presses the throttle down to full throttle, a solenoid kicks in, bypassing the vacuum modulator, and gives a much harder shifting. In fact, the engine will rev to red line and before shifting gear. It's an interesting Jekyll and Hyde personality that relies on hydraulic solenoids rather than computer controls, as in modern cars. 2 grind time videos ago, I mentioned 3 things that I didn't like about the car at that point. And that was the perceived lack of performance. The fuel injectors I just replaced took care of that. Sticky throttle pedal, which I've already taken care of with a new accelerator pedal linkage. And the third was the transmission's inability to get into 4th gear below 70 miles an hour. And also I was noticing what other owners describe as fanning, where it almost feels like the transmission is slipping in gears. So between the hard shifting, the quote-unquote fanning, and the inability for the transmission to go into top gear below 70, that was clearly a sign that I had a vacuum leak and or the modulator was beyond its useful life. Luckily, the vacuum modulator is an $80 part that's still readily available. And in fact, Mercedes has, since this car came up with an improved design. Unfortunately, in the 928, because it's a transaxle, on the left side, the exhaust system runs right next to where I need access to the vacuum modulator. So let me take you through what I had to remove prior to gaining access to the vacuum modulator. First thing I tried to do was remove the heat shield. So just above my head is the black transmission pan, and as you can see, right next to it is the heat shield and the exhaust that runs right next to it. That silver thing that looks like the alternator is actually the is the torque converter that mounts to the end of the torque tube. So here I'm just removing the 8mm bolts that hold the heat shield above the exhaust system. But unfortunately, with the exhaust system still in place, you're going to see I needed to do a little bit more. And yeah, here I am trying to get it out. All right, I'm moving one of my covers that protects the car on the lower from the four-post lift. So anyway, I moved to the 13mm bolts that hold the exhaust system just forward of that heat shield. I got a little bit more movement, but ultimately what I had to do to get enough clearance is go to the back end, and where there is a 13mm bolt that holds the strap for the muffler there. Here I am. Now that I've lowered it enough, it's a very awkward position, but that gave me enough access. The first thing I wanted to do was steam clean the whole area before I took the modulator out. The last thing you want to do is introduce dirt into a 40-year-old transmission. So I cleaned the area with my steam cleaner as well as a tub of towels, degreaser cloths. And you can see there the bellows on the transmission cable is very dried out. And here I'm trying to put in, it's a HW5 Allen screw, and it's a really weird angle, and I ended up stripping the left side. And I quickly realized I needed to remove the transmission linkage, which has a small clip on it. You see me with the magnet there. I had to remove that in order to get access to the modulator's two HW5 cap screws. And there I use it. Once the clip's out, I use a screwdriver to remove it from the bracket. One of the key things with this that you have to remember is the vacuum modulator is actually mounted at an angle in the transmission. So if you can see from my vantage point, I'm on my tippy toes. I'm only 5'8", but I had this balance between not hitting my head on the top of the car, the floor pan of the car, and being able to access it. I needed to move that linkage in order to get the proper angle for the Allen wrench socket to go in, as well as my socket wrench. Unfortunately, on the left side bolt, the one that's forward on the vacuum modulator, I ended up stripping it. Already in my possession is a variety of neat tools that can help take out a strip bolt. Unfortunately, the angle of this and the limited clearance, none of those tools worked, and I wasted almost 2 hours. I cried uncle and went over to my local Harbor Freight. They have a kit for $60 that has a combination of bolt extractors and screw extractors. And here you're seeing me put this into my socket, and I'm going counterclockwise, and that threads itself into the strip cap screw. And it's a very robust piece, even for a Harbor Freight tool. And here I am. It managed not only to bite into the cap screw, but then loosened it enough that I could loosen it by hand. Now with both bolts out, I didn't show the right one taken out. That one didn't give me much of a fuss at all. I'm slowly rocking the vacuum modulator out, being careful not to break the shaft that fits into the transmission, and I successfully did that. I quickly wiped around to make sure no dirt would get into that port. So here's the new brown top that I ordered from 928s or Us. And there it is, the metal key that fits in. And here's a comparison of the two. So what you see there, I'm in my on the left side, my right hand is the old unit and the cup style shaft that fits into the transmission. On the right side is the new unit, and in front of that is a dial attachment that allows fine-tuning of it allows more precise fine-tuning of the unit. You see this rubber cap had a crack in it, so this unit was already leaking vacuum. Now, on the right side you see that piece of paper. At the bottom of this video description, you'll see the link for that It's a Mercedes channel, Mercedes specialist channel, and they offer those instructions for $9.95. I downloaded them as it provided good instructions on how to install this and what to watch out for. I highly recommend spending the extra $10 and downloading those and supporting that channel. But here I'm I'm using fresh transmission fluid to lube that shaft as well as the O-ring so that I get a good vacuum seal when I install the new modulator. There's the clip that holds it on, and we're off to the car. Again, this is on an angle. So the first thing they recommend in those instructions is put the new black shaft in first. And that's what I'm doing here. That way, and now you see me carefully placing the modulator in the housing, taking care not to get any dirt, introduce any dirt into the transmission. Now, the instructions recommend you can slightly tap this. Because it's all injection molded plastic, I didn't want to take any chances. So I decided to let the replacement cap screw I bought for the stripped out one. It's a good shot of the modulator with the adjusting valve on it. But rather than start tapping away at this, I decided to use the bolts and alternating between sides, letting the bolts and the mounting plate that holds it pull that in and seal it properly. So I was very cautious to do a couple rotations on either side and pull that in as evenly as possible, and it seems to do the trick. And you can see I used 2 extensions because I do have limited clearance on this, and I zip tied a flashlight so I could watch what I was doing. All right, so with that in, so now with the modulator in, I had to make a decision on what to do about the vacuum line. As I mentioned earlier, there is above the torque tube on this is a metal line that runs just after the bell housing on the engine all the way back to the transmission, and then rubber tubes connect to the engine on the front and onto the modulator on the back. Well, just like everything else I run into on this car, I found that the connection, when I did the intake refresh, I had pulled the connection from the start of the steel tube above the torque tube. And it was going to be very difficult to get that back out. It's very limited. And there was no way I'm taking the torque tube out to replace a vacuum line. So instead, I decided to run, and with that torque tube having several connections, I decided I wanted to eliminate as many points as possible. And I ran a vacuum line from the modulator up to the engine. So let me show you that. I just bought brand new vacuum line, and you see me, what I decided to do was run it on the passenger side along the fuel vent hoses for the emission controls. That's a cooler area than trying to run this near the exhaust system, and I felt that would be a better place. I tucked it in, was very careful about threading it around. A little bit of hunting, trial and error here to get it around the right place. And then once it was up through into the engine, it was just a matter of connecting it to the proper 4-way connector that I had. Again, it was a little experimentation here on where I wanted to route this, keeping it away from the engine as much as possible and up along the firewall. And that's what you see me doing right here. All right, once I was satisfied with getting it as close to the firewall as possible, it was a matter of moving to the other side. And there's the 4-way. So you can see I discovered that had not even been connected to the tube I mentioned above the torque tube. So here it was just a matter of cutting my single line from the back of the engine to the front. And that vacuum upgrade I did in the last video, there is one 4-way connector, and that's where that line fits into to send vacuum to the transmission modulator. Once I was happy everything was working, I could put the base of the air cleaner back in. And one of the most complex air cleaners I've had to work with, these 4 straps are just a pain. There's no other way to put it. Very cumbersome, and they fall off easily, so putting in the thing. Okay. So with the air cleaner back on, I'm going to get to the top of the air cleaner in a minute, but now I was back to, with the vacuum line run, I just had to reconnect the transmission cable linkage and of course, put the exhaust system back up. Unfortunately, the clip on this damn thing, it's a ball socket that fits on a ball on the linkage. And I tried at least 30 times to get the ball. If I put the ball on without the clip, it would go right on. If I tried to put the clip in, it would not, you could not get it over the thing. And many times, as I was trying to squeeze the clip in, it would fall off. I would find it on the floor. After about 20 times, 20 or 30 times doing this, I was literally working on this about an hour. I tried to put it in. It clips not only sprung out, but went flying somewhere, and I have not been able to find it since. Now, if I had ready clearance without the exhaust system next to it, I probably would have just zip tied it, ordered the part, and got everything back and running. Unfortunately, with that exhaust system needing to be lowered, I'm kind of between a rock and a hard place. And also, since the clip is missing, I ordered a new clip. It forced my hand to replace the completely degraded bellows on that cable. It's just, may as well do it while I'm down here. So sure enough, here I am another Sunday where I'm going out to 928 or Us, ordering a couple of parts, and now I'm waiting for the Pony Express to deliver that. Right now, the tracking says I'm supposed to receive this by 9 p.m. Wednesday evening. What I've learned with our modern U.S. Postal Service is if they're showing by 9 p.m. Wednesday, that means I'm going to get it Thursday. Nobody in my local post office is working at 9 p.m. I can assure you that. So if the parts get here by Wednesday evening, great. More likely, I'm probably going to be able to work on this Thursday or Friday and get this, not only get this installed, but get it calibrated. So unfortunately, you'll have to wait till the next grind time video to see whether all of this effort did improve the transmission or not. I'm 90% confident it will. I know it's got, the modulator will have vacuum. At that point, it's just a question of adjusting it properly, and I'll walk you through more of that in the next video. On April 5th, here in New Jersey, we experienced a 4.9 earthquake. And luckily, while nothing in our home was damaged, one of the casualties was the house shook enough briefly that the top of the 928's air cleaner that was stored on top of one of my cabinets actually fell onto my garage floor and shattered. I had 2 options. Source a used one, but those were running anywhere from $100 to $150, or buy the last remaining brand new one from 928 or Us for $278. As I've stated in all these videos, this is not a Concord car. I'm trying to make a driver quality car. I said, I'm going to take it upon myself to try and plastic weld the box back to health. If you're not familiar with the process of plastic welding, there are kits available on Amazon. Basically, it looks like a soldering iron with a flatter blade on the heated tip. And you get, comes with a supply of plastic rods, and you're able to heat that plastic rod like stick weld. It's literally like stick welding metal, only with plastic. So there are all the pieces I had to put back together. Now you see what I do here. I take the stick of welding stick, and camera's slightly out of here, but you'll see it here in a second. But I used here I was using duct tape. Once I figured out which piece went where, I used duct tape to hold it in place from the inside. And here I'm trying to fit all the parts as best I can. And it was just a slow reconstruction process. of seeing what went where and what I should weld first. Again, the tape was used just to hold the pieces in place, not necessarily bind them. I did use a little bit, I did cheat a little bit with Gorilla Glue on the smaller pieces just to temporarily hold them in place. I didn't want to use a lot because that melts the plastic and you lose the original seam crack. So that piece was a good example of that. And there I'm using duct tape to hold it. Here's finally a good shot. You have the stick, and you place the hot iron above the seam where you want the plastic to go, and then you smooth it as you go. You don't want to leave that iron too much in one place. And it's just a matter of slowly rebuilding everything, one step at a time. Get a little bit on the iron to start it. These are some of the last welds I did, the bottom piece. And again, I want to try to seal it so the air was going in. And there you see me smoothing as I move along with the hot iron. Then finally, I let that dry for a couple days in between my Dremel, and so I use the Dremel to rough sand some of the seams that I made. It's literally like welding metal, but just plastic. And here I am using 80 grit sandpaper just to smooth out the welds. And there it is. I let it set a couple more days. I'm about to see it here. There's a shot. So it's smoothed out. I'll use some VLR to make that look a little bit better. But not Concord quality by any stretch. But you can see structurally it's strong again and strong enough to be put back on the engine and get the car the correct cold air that it needs. And here I am putting that ridiculous puzzle of an air cleaner top on these 4 rubber straps. So that's the latest and greatest grind time. I'm just a couple days away, I think, from having the transmission calibrated, and the car will be running really well. The next project I want to tackle on this car are noisy front wheel bearings. I have all the parts I need in-house right now, and that includes the inner and outer wheel bearings and seals for both sides. I ordered those with the fuel injectors last month in April. And since I have to take the calipers off and the rotors to gain access to the hubs, I decided to get new rotors and brake pads to do a brake job on the car. I found that the brakes were not bad on this car other than squeaking, so I've been able to hold off on doing that. But now that I have to take the hubs off, it just makes sense to do a brake job while I'm in there. So if you enjoyed this video, I encourage you to press the like button at a minimum. And if you haven't considered doing so, please subscribe. It costs you nothing to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and that helps the algorithm get the word out that I have a channel for Porsche enthusiasts like you and me. And if you haven't done so, I encourage you to check out my main webpage, guyswithrides.com, the only dealer-free community and marketplace for classic car enthusiasts. I think we have a great website, continues to grow, so check that out when you get a chance. For now, thank you for watching. Stay safe, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for watching this video. Please press the like and subscribe button, comment below, and be sure to check out our other videos on this subject, as well as all of the great content on our YouTube channel. If you have any questions, you can call me at the number listed below, or be sure to check out our main website, guyswithrides.com.